wonderful story. Well, it wasn't so wonderful when it happened, but I'm going to talk about the next manager I had to deal with, and we're going to call him Reluctant Roger.
Ooh, the chingazo.
Reluctant Roger was my first supervisor that I had once I got out of the military. Let's jump into the story. I remember the day. It was in mid November 2004, and I was happy to start my new career because, as I just said in the opening, I had left the United States military, and now I was opening that door to becoming a civil servant. My first job was in this hometown where I'm currently living. The first day I show up at the job and I meet my new supervisor, which is Reluctant Roger. He met me at the gate. I parked my car. He took me to the shop. As I'm riding with him to the HVAC shop, because that was my job, a heating, ventilation, air conditioning technician, we made small talk. I could hear on the radio he was playing country music, and Roger was Mexican American. He stood approximately around 5'8" or a little bit shorter. He looked to be about in his late 50s to early 60s. And he always made this sound. I don't know if he was half coyote or hound dog or something, but he always would be like, ooh. So I don't know what that comes from. And he would say the word chingao all the time. And anyway, Roger had a beer belly and was pretty much out of shape. Looked like he hadn't seen exercise in about 40 to 50 years. Anyway, he asked me the question as we're riding to the shop, do you speak Spanish? And I said, no, I don't. I just speak English. He was like, ooh, again, that hound dog sound again. And as we arrive at the shop and we walk in, he was immediately attacked by 3 or 4 employees who were also Mexican American. And to my surprise, they were telling him,
Why did you hire this black guy? Why? You shouldn't have hired this black guy.
and he was basically responding, ooh, I didn't know he was black. I just saw his name. And poor Roger was already being attacked. And poor me for what's about to come, because I could already see my coworkers didn't like me at all. And one, because I was black, and I guess two, they were trying to get somebody else that was Mexican American for the job. Anyway, moving on. So that already was a bad sign coming into that shop, is seeing what had happened in that situation. Now, as time went on, I could also see that Roger himself was not the head honcho or the guy you could say that was in charge, that was making the rules, policies, and procedures for the employees. It was basically our shop. We had a superintendent who ran everything and who disseminated what he wanted done through Roger and used him as a puppet. So that was the second bad sign. Basically, Roger was just a messenger, as you can say. He didn't really know much. He just kind of just put everybody's schedule together for the day or for the week. And that was about it on supervision. Because basically, there were a group of employees who told him what they were going to do and what they were not going to do on a daily basis. And on the other end, me and maybe a couple of older guys who looked like they were in their 60s or 70s, Roger would try to boss us around. Make a long story short with this one, he tried to command me a little bit or tried to show he was in charge, but I already knew he wasn't in charge. At one point, he was trying to say certain jobs that I would go out and do, he would try to say,
Oh, Johnny had to come behind you and fix this job, or you didn't complete it correctly.
whatever in that nature. So before, like nowadays, you have all this surveys that you have to do every time you talk to a company on the phone or a company comes out and fix your stuff. Well, back then in the early 2000s, we had paper surveys. And what I did, simply, I saw a whole bunch of stack of them and I knew that the other guys wasn't using them. So I just took those surveys and made my own copies of them, made about 40, 50 copies, and I would take them with me out on jobs. And when I went out on jobs, I would give it to the facility manager or the person who was in charge of that building, and I would have them fill it out. So once I completed the job, I got their air conditioning working or their heat working again, they will fill it out. They will put their little comments, notes on what an exceptional job that I did. And then once that was done, I just kept a copy. I just took it and put it into a folder. So then when Roger tried to play this game and try to say,
Ooh, Donald, you didn't fix this place, or you didn't fix this job.
I just go into my little folder and say, okay, well, somebody's lying here because the facility manager or the person in charge of this building filled out this survey and said it was fixed. And they dated it. They put the time on there when I was there and when I did work on it. So I don't know what you're saying. And that killed his little quest of trying to be domineering or show that he had authority as a supervisor. The second thing that I was able to jump through was these guys, these same ones that were attacking him for hiring the black guy, they didn't understand a computer. And I'm not lying to y'all. They simply did not know how to turn on the computer, what the keypad or keyboard is, what a mouse was with the computer, how to check email, none of that stuff. I used that to my advantage. Plus, coming from the Air Force, active duty, I understood our preventive maintenance program software, how it worked, how to input the numbers, how to set up the maintenance program, basically the buildings that were on the base, how to implement the equipment, HVAC equipment, and set up the maintenance log for each pieces of equipment. So I knew how to do that. And I also knew how to set up and run the hazmat program because in a HVAC shop, you have a lot of chemicals, refrigerants, and things in that nature that you need to keep MSDSs, or now they're just called SDSs, safety data sheets on. So just in case there's a spill or somebody gets waste the chemical on their skin or gets it in their eye, you know what the proper procedures in trying to help that person and assist them and take care of them in that situation. So I ran the hazmat program in the shop and I ran the preventive maintenance program in the shop, all thanks to the superintendent once he found out what I knew, and I knew how to go about doing it and fixing things and setting it up. And we ended up passing the inspection. That was another thing that raised Roger off my line. I stayed in this job for about 2 years, and then I was all of a sudden, they found out that not only did I know all these things and how to set things up, but I also had a Bachelor of Science degree in industrial technology. So that was the third thing that put me over everybody in that shop. And I ended up in February of 2007 moving out of that shop, that miserable place, because one of the department engineer managers found out my skill set and what I knew, and they needed some help in their section. So I transferred out of the HVAC shop, and I haven't worked in that field since February 2007. The moral to this story of what I was dealing with, Roger, is this: Roger was an individual that, one, he was taking orders from somebody on top of him. He couldn't think on his own to implement his own policies or procedures or knew how to manage the employees because maybe at one time he was an employee himself, but he was not able to do that. He was being handcuffed by the superintendent. And two, the employees evidently didn't respect him, majority of them. They didn't listen to him. They ignored him. They manipulated him. They basically told him what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do on a daily basis. In that retrospect, if you are ever at a job and a person is supposed to be your supervisor, but upper management is telling them every single thing, what to do, where to look, how to sit down, how to stand up. And on the other hand, none of the other employees respect them and they can't control them. Then you don't have a supervisor. You have a puppet. And that's the moral to the story of Reluctant Roger. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And also, if you are having trouble or are currently working in a toxic workplace, then look no further than my book. It's available on Amazon called Shut Up and Work Surviving Then Escaping the Workplace. Other than that, have a great day. Take care. Peace.